I want to ask you some ugly questions. Is this president stable? When we run the video of what we saw yesterday at the NATO meetings, when I saw Steny Hoyer's tweet about the outrage over this boorish behavior by the President of the United States, how does Ian Bremmer react?
I react as I watch these photographs to say that the United States has a dramatically weakened relationship with our closest allies in Europe. Some of that has been coming for a long time, but there is a direct reaction to a president that has no interest in shared democratic values and the important institutions that the Americans have built over many decades as a consequence. I don't think that's boorish behavior. I think that that's a piece of it. I think it's much more. People can forgive a lot of behavior if they think you're a good person. What you see from the Germans and the French in particular here, and this is going to only grow over time, is a sense from America's closest allies that the American president's not a good person, that they don't trust him, that they don't want to particularly work with him, and that they're thinking of how they're going to deal with not a few months, but a number of years of that on the world stage.
From where you sit with your Eurasia Group consultants, all the people that help you frame your vision, is Donald Trump a one-off, or do you detect permanent effects after Mr. Trump's tenure as president? Wherever we go, whichever party, are there permanent effects here, or is it discreet to this businessman?
No, it's not discreet, and part of that is because this has been coming for quite some time. I mean, the most important news of the last week has not been Trump. Most important news was that the Chinese government had 29 heads of state for a One Belt, One Road summit, the first ever, which has real coordination, strategy, and money behind it. Vastly more important than anything we see.
And nobody got shoved out of the way.
Yeah, and everyone coming there to actually say we want to be a part of this new thing, not the G7 and NATO and everyone looking for how far apart they are. Look, right now we're watching a video of the first ever formal meeting of the G0. In my view, that's what we're seeing. That's what we're seeing on the stage. The Chinese are actually building architecture. That's a very different dynamic of a global order. And Trump, in a sense, he catalyzes that. He crystallizes it. He gives us a bunch of things to talk about. Whether it's a tweet or whether it's a photograph or whether it's a challenging meeting with the leader. But all of that is just in all these continual focus points for us to comment on something that is already happening.
Right, but Ian, do we care if there's less of a relationship between the U.S. and Europe? Sure, the Europeans care, but actually, why should America? If you forge stronger ties with China, and if you forge stronger ties with Middle East and Saudi Arabia, then maybe it's a win-win situation.
Well, first of all, it's hard to see that the Americans are really forging stronger relations with China. The Americans had a very junior delegation at that One Belt, One Road summit. It is true that Trump had a very successful meeting in context with Xi Jinping. The sustainability of that on the North Korea issue, the sustainability of that on the global trade issue, on IP, on cyber, to me, is extremely tenuous, especially because China is rising and going to come up against American interests everywhere. The strongest allies that the Americans have had since the end of World War II have been the Europeans, precisely because shared values matter to create trust and institutions that are durable and work over time. Those are precisely the institutions that Trump has the least interest in. You see this in NATO. Trump clearly is much more comfortable working with the Philippines, working with the Turks, or working with the Russians than he is with the continental Europeans. And I think that's a fundamental challenge for the global order's durability.